Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Lyrica, surrounded by tall mountains and green forests, there lived a young princess named Isabella. Lyrica was a beautiful place where flowers covered the hills, rivers sparkled, and the air smelled sweet like flowers and pine trees. The kingdom was happy, the people loved their king and queen, and everyone lived peacefully. But hidden in the big, strong castle, there was a secret that only a few people knew. Princess Isabella, the only daughter of King Leopold and Queen Serafina, was different from other kids. She had never left the castle since she was born. Isabella was smart, curious, and full of life, with green eyes that sparkled like emeralds and dark hair like the night sky. But there was something special about Isabella, something that amazed and scared people. She had magical powers that she'd had since she was born. With just a thought, she could make flowers bloom, call a breeze to cool her down, or make the fire in the fireplace dance higher. But her powers were tied to her feelings, and when Isabella got upset, her powers became wild and hard to control. Because they were afraid for Isabella and the kingdom, King Leopold and Queen Serafina decided to keep their daughter inside the castle. They thought that if they kept her safe, she would learn to control her powers, and one day, maybe, she could go out into the world without worry. Isabella's older brother, Prince James, was her best friend. James was tall and strong, kind, and always watched out for her. He was trained to be a king and a warrior, but his favorite thing was spending time with Isabella. He brought her books, told her stories about the world outside, and sometimes took her to the castle gardens when the guards weren't looking. But as Isabella grew older, she wanted to see the world outside the castle more and more. She spent hours looking out the windows, watching the sun set over the faraway mountains, dreaming of running through fields and exploring forests. The more she dreamed, the more she felt trapped inside the castle. One day, when the castle was busy getting ready for the Festival of the Harvest, Isabella decided she couldn't stay in the castle anymore. She wanted to see the world outside. That night, when everyone was asleep, Isabella put on a simple cloak to blend in with the villagers. She took some gold coins, a water flask, and a map that James had given her. She knew it was risky, but her desire for freedom was stronger than her fear. She quietly left her room, sneaking through the dark halls of the castle. Her heart was beating fast as she moved like a shadow, avoiding the guards and using secret passageways James had shown her. Finally, she reached the courtyard. The gates were closed, but she knew how to open them. James had taught her. She whispered a few words, and the huge iron gates creaked open, just wide enough for her to slip through. As she stepped outside, a cool breeze touched her face, carrying the smell of the forest and the promise of adventure. For the first time in her life, Isabella was free. Isabella walked quickly through the dark streets of the town below the castle. The townspeople were still celebrating the festival, laughing and singing. She kept her hood low, focusing on reaching the forest before dawn. The forest of Lyrica was a place of beauty and danger. It was home to magical creatures and ancient magic. Isabella had heard many stories about the forest, and though she was nervous, she was excited to see it for herself. As she entered the forest, the tall trees seemed to welcome her. The path was narrow and winding, lit only by the pale moonlight. Isabella walked for hours, listening to the sounds of the night. The deeper she went, the more the forest seemed alive. She heard owls hooting, leaves rustling as small animals moved, and the distant howl of a wolf. But as dawn approached, the air grew colder, and a thick mist began to rise from the ground. Isabella shivered and pulled her cloak tighter. She had heard stories of the enchanted mist, a fog that could trap those who wandered too far into the forest, making them lost forever. Panic crept into her mind, but she pushed it away, focusing on finding her way out. Suddenly, the mist grew thicker, making it hard to see. The trees looked like dark, scary shapes, and the forest no longer felt welcoming. Isabella quickened her pace, her heart racing. The mist twisted the path, making her lose her way. Isabella's powers, sensing her fear, began to stir inside her. She could feel the energy building up like a storm. Just when she thought she could go no further, she found a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a large, ancient oak tree. The mist parted around the tree, leaving the clearing bathed in soft, golden light. Exhausted, Isabella sat down by the tree and closed her eyes, taking deep breaths to calm down. Slowly, the wild energy inside her faded away. After a while, Isabella opened her eyes and noticed a small, glowing stone at the base of the tree. It was pale blue, with a light that pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. She reached out to touch it, and warmth spread through her, filling her with peace. Before she could think more about the stone, a voice spoke from the shadows. "You shouldn't be here, young princess." Isabella jumped and looked around, but she couldn't see anyone. The voice was gentle and kind. "Who's there?" she asked, her voice trembling a little. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was an old woman, her face lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and wise. "I am Elysia," the woman said, "and you, Princess Isabella, are far from home." Isabella's heart skipped a beat. "How do you know who I am?" Elysia smiled. "The forest knows all who enter it, and I have watched over this land for many years." Isabella felt like she had met Elysia before, though she knew it was impossible. "I didn't mean to intrude," she said, standing up. "I just needed to get away." Elysia nodded. "I know, and I know about the power you carry inside you." Isabella's eyes widened. "You know about my powers?" "Yes," Elysia replied, "and I know the burden they place on you. But you must learn to control them if you want to find the freedom you seek." Isabella felt tears in her eyes. "But how? I've tried so hard, but whenever I'm scared, my powers take over." Elysia stepped closer. "The power inside you is like the wind, wild and free, but also dangerous. You cannot hide it, and you cannot let it control you. You must learn to dance with it, to guide it." Isabella wiped her tears, looking at Elysia with hope. "But how? How do I learn to control it?" Elysia took Isabella's hands in hers. "The journey to mastering your powers begins with understanding yourself. You must learn to accept all parts of you, the happy and the sad, the light and the dark. Only then can you truly be free." Isabella felt a wave of calm wash over her. "Will you help me?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. Elysia smiled. "I can guide you, but the path is yours to walk. There will be challenges, but if you are brave, you will find the answers you seek." If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more enchanting and captivating tales of love, adventure, and magic. Thank you for joining us on this journey.